Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on roll call, Mr. Bartlett.
Here.
Ms. Brown Knight.
Here.
Dr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Van Stone.
Here.
Mr. York.
Here.
Okay, we have a letter from Matt asking to be excused. A motion and a second to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
Okay.
What about this?
Yeah,
Is it going to go forward tonight?
yeah, but they're not here, but they're gonna vote them.
Okay, Chief, do you want to basically explain
Yeah.
about the two officers?
Yeah, I have Sergeant Geraci and Officer Matt Simon have completed their one-year probationary period, and I'm recommending that they be moved to regular full-time status. They couldn't be here tonight, but they're both doing a really good job, and like I said, my recommendation is to get a vote to remove them off probationary period and onto full-time status.
Okay. All right, any
So moved.
Any questions or?
Is there a move to be
You've
made?
done terrific. We trust your judgment.
I appreciate that, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they're good. I
Second.
got great people.
I think we've had a motion and
Yeah.
a second. Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, they're off. They're on.
Thank you.
All right, any question regarding the minutes from the May 12th meeting? To everyone's satisfaction? No? Yes? All right, a motion and a second to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Ms. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, we'll accept those minutes. All right, now we're going to go a teeny bit out of order here tonight because I want to give these lovely folks that have come in here and give us an explanation regarding the energy situation with us. And I believe you'll see at the back of the communications thing, they have their sheet, Energy Alliance and so on and so forth. Okay,
Thank you for having us here. Appreciate always coming out here. I'm sure you can all hear me. I'm pretty loud. I used to have a bailiff voice back when I worked with Ed back in the courthouse. The program is getting ready to terminate on the one-year deal that we are presently in. The savings per household was a little bit smaller in the first 7-8 months of the program, but now since Duke's rate has increased with the capacity increase, folks for the next 3 months are going to save average household about $35 a month off of that price. So the all-in total for the year is going to be $150 to $175 per residence on savings. The reason we're here tonight is we are asking that someone get the authority to sign the next iteration of the contract. We've done this with our other 70 clients in Southwest Ohio, and basically the issue is boards cannot usually give notice and have to have a special because all the prices stop at 5 o'clock. They don't, it's so volatile now, they won't hold the price till the next day. When I started this stuff in 2005, they'd say, get it back to us in 3 or 4 days, and that'll be okay. Now, it's not so much. So a couple of things about these programs, and I know there were some emails going back and forth between Maria and everybody else. The program is, while it is an opt-out program, the reason we have to do that is because we can get those 1,000 houses together to try to get the price for the 1,000 houses. The folks that you see on the apples to apples chart, 90% of those suppliers, 95% of those suppliers aren't able to do aggregations. And what they're doing is they're buying energy just somewhere in the market, putting it on that website and then saying, okay, the first 40 or 50 people that take it, we'll sell it to them. 1,000 people can't get any of those deals on the website unless it's done by AEP, Dynegy, or one of the other two companies that are Constellation, those companies that are certified to do aggregation. So the goal of the program that we have is to create a price and a product that people don't have to go and hunt for, that don't have any of the gotchas like fees, termination fees, automatic re-enrollments without coming back to a city council or a village council or board of trustees, and making sure that that program is, many times it's not the very lowest price, but that very lowest price isn't offered to the 1,075 people that are in the program here. That's just how it works. That apples to apples is put up there for the convenience of those that like to shop, but you better be very aware of the terms and conditions of those deals on those apples to apples. And if you do not know when that's terminated and start a new program or re-up with somebody else, or pay attention to the letter that comes with you, that price that's coming to you is for your house only. So when you see an increase, you'll see, say you got in for 7 cents a year ago. When that comes back, it's not going to be 7.25 cents because they bought it for, they got a big deal that's coming back in. It's going to be priced to your house, 11, 12, 13 cents. That's going to be more than Duke. So the price to compare until next May is 10.45. So we believe, we just signed some neighboring communities last week, Fairfax, Coleraine, Delhi, Green have done in the last couple of weeks, some earlier. But at this point, we're out pricing the profile load for Mariemont, and we're going to come back with a price in the next couple of days, and we'd like somebody to be able to sign it. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them at this point.
Is there a good time, Dan, for, because it seems like I was doing a little research, and rates can be seasonal too, right? Like somewhat, like the summer is a high time.
So you're correct in that, is that it makes a lot of difference when things are coming on the market. Like, for instance, right now, the federal government's opening up a lot of energy. So in 6 or 8 months from now, you may see a dip in some pricing. It is saying, okay, let's buy in April or let's buy in October. You just have to kind of watch where the market's going. The biggest thing that we watch is we watch the Duke price to compare, which changes from May to May. It's really June. It's really your June bill to the following May bill. So it's kind of different. It's a little bit different. And then we watch what they call capacity. And that's why the price right now is so high. Capacity is the price that we all pay that's part of a kilowatt that ensures that we have enough energy to run the grid and the residences on it. And the piece of that price used to be about 0.8 cents. This next iteration, it's going to be 3.25. So the energy is no more expensive than it was a year or two ago. The capacity, that fee that's in there, is more expensive. So when you say the energy market's really not that. It's up a little bit, but it's not a huge. It's those outside, influences that change the pricing this dramatically. Yeah. And Duke's price to compare is it was this high 2 years ago, but we didn't think it was going to get back to this. But the capacity has pushed it there.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think through on an ongoing basis what's the right drumbeat to set. If you guys, for your guys' opinion, when's the right time?
So that's why we're sticking with a year right now, because that's the minimum contract you can do in an aggregation. And in October, we'll know what the capacity is. So if the capacity drops really far in October, I might be standing here in November and saying, hey, let's tack on these 2 years at this lower rate right now. Mm-hmm. We can do that, and we've done that on dozens and dozens of occasions. Mm-hmm. What we're watching right now is what that capacity auction is going to come back at in October. And that's why we don't want to put you in anything that's 2 years or 3 years right now. We've recommended to no one on our list of municipalities to do so. Last year, we were doing the same thing, except Fairfax. Fairfax moved so rapidly last year, we were able to get them in 2 summers. Because now you're enjoying the big savings now. We saw that we could get them something smaller last summer, and then they now have the big savings also with you. So right now, there's just an incremental difference. You know, it might be 40 cents, maybe 40 cents on your bill total between Fairfax and Mariemont. So
The average house in Fairfax saved $112 in
yeah,
16 months.
so
We're probably gonna be $150
but that's
in 12 months.
that's before those 3 months are calculated.
Yeah. No, and again, I'm not
Yeah.
actually going there. I'm actually just trying to think about on an ongoing basis.
Yeah,
I'm just trying
so-
to- when do
so-
you guys think is the best way to handle this so that,
Right now, we're going to hold tight till we see what the auctions is going to happen in October, and then the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is going to decide on this capacity issue. And we just kind of want to wait for that to play out, and we're going to provide a price for the residents here that's going to absolutely beat Duke, or we wouldn't do it.
yeah. So, and you mentioned something earlier, so we lock it in for a year, but I guess because you can, if you do it yourself, I've done it myself, and so I can.
Sure.
I always say, no monthly fees, like you said, and
Yep.
no separation. If I leave early, I don't want to have any.
No termination fees,
Yeah, no
correct.
termination
You got it.
So will this have termination fees?
No, we never have any fees of any kind.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, when you go from third-party supplier to third-party supplier without aggregation, you could be charged what they call a switch fee, which is $4, which aggregations are exempt from. So for those guys that say, oh, I'm gonna go this one to this one to this one, you know, they may get those fees. But there's no fees associated with our aggregations at any time. Folks can come and go as they please at any time. And when they call our office, they'll probably talk to me to get an answer if they call, instead of calling the supplier. Because we don't, we have a customer service representatives in our office in Sycamore Township that are there to answer residents' questions and not confuse them with calling the supplier and getting in the phone tree and trying to figure that out. So when a resident calls, they talk to somebody that's in here in town, and many times it's me.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit about the capacity and what factors affect it? I mean,
Well,
mean, is it-
I've been asked this question 50 times.
My interpretation is, you always hear about the grid and it's not sufficient. Is that what you're talking about with capacity?
It's not the grid.
Okay.
It's the demand and the supply.
Okay.
So when you take coal, natural gas plants offline that are producing for the grid, and you don't replace them with
Gotcha.
because it's very difficult to replace a power generation plant. Right now, GE will tell you to get a turbine to do that, it's a 10-year wait. So we're closing these, it's no more than supply and demand.
Okay.
Our demand's going up, and we've been shutting down supply.
Okay.
And that's what's going on,
Within the United States?
yes.
Okay.
I have some process questions. I thought, this is almost for Ed, you two, I thought a year ago, or almost a year ago, when we passed the resolution, we said that the mayor had the right to negotiate these. I thought that meant that when it came time for renewal, he could do that as well. Is that not the case?
No, the full council's got to approve the renewal right now.
Okay,
With the verbal? Or
Please?
just with a show of hands, or?
Yeah, just show of hands.
okay,
But
But-
they'll approve, and then basically they're giving me permission to sign it.
now do we have to do that a year from now as well? Do we have to do this every year? That's,
Well, unless they opt
Unless
in
it's a
in
two-year,
October when the rates get changed a little bit.
So what generally we do is we put in a resolution ordinance saying that if you can drop the rate further, the designee that is allowed to sign can sign that too. That's generally what we do. If there, because when I go to around the Southwest Ohio and Central Ohio, they'd rather not have, I know it's a shock, but they'd rather not see me every time we have to do this. But they put in a bit of a fail-safe to, if they can drop the rate at any time, we can do that. As a matter of fact, but to extend the contract, that's the issue. So if we say, I want to drop the rate to 7 cents for 2 years extended upon next September, I think you have to make that decision whether you're going to extend it. Dropping the rate, I can get the supplier to drop the rate. That's in all the contracts. If we get into an issue where something happens and it becomes very, very cheap, they'll drop. If their costs aren't what they thought their costs were, they have to give that back anyway. So
So that can go in effect, so if we have a 1-year contract, the price can get dropped partway through the year?
I've done that before too. They call that a blend and extend.
But since it's under the original contract, you don't have to get the approval because it's already under the current contract?
Well, if
or-
to extend the term,
Right,
we
right, but if it's
would.
the current,
We
if it's the
would,
current
yeah.
But to
contract.
drop the rate, no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to drop the rate, no, but to
Then
extend,
the terms of the
Yeah.
contract.
to do both, to do A and B, we'd have to have some kind of a general. I mean, there is a township in town here that gives their administrator full authority to negotiate the contracts and sign them. And I know that there's at least 2 or 3 cities that do that allow the mayor to sign their contracts. So, I mean, to me, that's probably for another time for you folks to throw that on somewhere to say, okay, but tonight, I think you just need to give somebody the authority to sign the next iteration, because we're kind of running out of time.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we also want to add the gas onto this? Because the gas, we have a different date on the gas contract.
The gas is up in October.
Yeah, the gas will be up in October, and we're going to have to talk about that because Duke is changing the way how they're going to supply and what they're going to charge for it. They're going to a market-based rate next spring. So if it's something that we can't, if it's something that we don't think we can beat, we're going to come here and tell you, hey, send everybody back to Duke. We need to take a hard look
My
at
only
it.
point was, if we added to this recommended legislation, gas and electric, so that when that time comes, you're authorized to do that, that would just save us effort, that's
Well,
all.
if they want to vote it.
That's up to you. That's if you want to. The amount of authority you want to give the designee is on the council, and we'll work with however you all decide. We'll do that.
So if there is a drop or an expansion in capacity, whatever, how does that work? Do you get notified and you notify us, or how does that
Well,
work?
any change in price, we would have to notify every
Customer?
resident.
Okay,
So the supplier will do that. It'll come on their letterhead, and
Okay.
so every time something changes, they have to get notification
okay,
via U.S. mail.
okay.
So point of clarification, today, we have the ability to designate the mayor to sign a renewal for both gas and electric, and if the price drops.
Is that your motion?
No,
I
the
just want-
price drop
Question.
happens regardless. It doesn't require him to sign, if I understand that right.
Well,
Price
he
drop,
would
I
be,
don't
he'd
sign
have to,
on.
he'd be
Yeah.
required to sign an extension of the contract if that
Again,
happened.
I'm not talking extension, I'm just
Yeah.
talking, you
Yeah,
mentioned
I
price drop.
mean, that's unlikely to happen, but yes.
So, but we would need to clarify that to make sure that if there was an opportunity, you could sign that agreement. Is that,
An opportunity to do what?
if there is, I mean, again, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but if there is a price drop, you were saying other municipalities empower the designee to sign off on a price drop.
And,
Well,
and
to sign
extend
off
the
on an
contract.
extension,
And,
it would be
and
an
extend the
extension, yeah.
Yeah.
contract,
To sign
if
off
there
on
is a
extending
price
the
drop.
contract.
Thank you for
Yes.
that clarification. So there are 3 points then to this. And I mean, are folks comfortable with all 3 points? I am, but I don't know.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just need to change, because, yeah, all the legislations all just says electric, so we just need to add and gas or something like that.
Gas
So
and
it's-
electric.
And does it say if there's a price drop,
I don't think it does.
they can sign
Does-
for a renewal?
does it-
I don't think that's in that legislation that we've provided.
Well, we can put it in there, can't we?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
can you give us the language about,
What-
would be an extension of the contract?
So
Do you want-
what would the language be? Maybe what we can do is amend it right here and now,
Yeah.
Buzz.
Yeah.
I would say,
Do you want a copy? Oh, so we have to amend.
It does say in here, though, that mayor can further execute subsequent agreements as needed with regard to stabilizing the electric
yeah,
costs.
that is in there.
We'll do it.
So that'll do it.
All right.
Okay.
So it's in there. It says the mayor entered into electric master service agreement with electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances, and that the mayor can further execute subsequent agreements as needed with regard to stabilizing your electric costs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
And if you wanna put in there gas and electric, you can do that.
I think we should.
Would we, okay, that would go in section 2 in that
No,
paragraph?
no, all
And in the
this-
title.
So the word electric appears 1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4,
what?
5, 6, 7,
Every
8,
time the
9.
word
9
electric-
times, so every time the word electric appears, you just say
Put gas.
gas and
And
electric,
gas.
like Bob's
Yeah.
saying. Which I agree, I think that makes sense.
Okay, so we're going to vote to amend that
To amend and include the word
gas.
Yeah.
Gas and electric.
And gas and electric.
gas and electric. Okay.
Okay, that's the motion for
Yep.
that.
Could you repeat the motion?
We're going to amend the ordinance to put in the word where it says electric to gas and electric, or electric and gas,
Okay.
whichever way. And I think if Rob's counted it accurately, there's 9 different places.
Yeah, or electricity. There's the word electricity once.
Electricity.
So you can just change that too.
So
And
moved.
Buzz, you must have sent over this legislation
Oh.
last week. It's real
10.
technically for us, it's a resolution, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But, so 2 things. What we need, number 1, is a motion to amend this ordinance that's been presented to us relative to gas and electric aggregation
Yeah.
to include the word gas everywhere you see electric, and to retitle it as a resolution as opposed to an ordinance.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
An ordinance was probably the last one I sent before that.
Right, yeah, somebody include ordinances, right.
Okay, motion to amend the current
Ordinance.
ordinance to read wherever it says electric, to now read electric and gas, and/or where it says electricity, to add the term gas. So that would be my first motion.
Okay. Do we have a
Second.
And at the same time, she's moving to retitle
I can combine them.
what you've labeled as an ordinance into a resolution.
In addition, I would
In
like
addition.
to retitle the ordinance as a resolution.
All right, very good. All right, Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Who's second?
Brown Knight.
Bob
Knight.
did. Bob did. Okay.
Dr. Lewis.
Are you ready for us to go,
Oh.
Tim?
Yes.
Okay, aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
Okay.
Now, we can go ahead and vote on this resolution now. Might as well get it out of the way so you guys can leave. If you want to go, it's out of our order on our agenda a little bit.
Whatever you wanna do,
Well, we don't.
Well, yeah, I
Keep
mean,
up.
let's go ahead and vote. So, you know,
If you need your beauty rest.
yeah.
allow them to sleep.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, my.
And we're doing it as an emergency, so we have to go through all those steps, right?
Right.
Okay.
So do you need to make a motion to go out of order?
No, I don't think we need a motion to go out of order. We just need a motion to vote on that.
A motion to adopt the amended resolution that's been
So
discussed
moved.
earlier today.
Second,
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, we've had the first reading. I need a motion and a second to suspend the rules and allow for the second and third reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, are we going to have a second reading now? What do we
Yeah. Have a second reading?
have a second reading?
Yeah. Let's go. Good. Let's do the whole thing.
All right.
What was the caption before? I didn't get it. Did you send it to me, Buzz?
Wanna send
I
it
didn't get it.
to-
Second reading is ordinance, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an electric aggregation agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances, Inc., the community energy aggregation consultant. The mayor can enter into subsequent agreements with regard to this program to reduce costs as needed. That's the second reading.
Okay, I think we've already had all the discussion, so may we have the third reading?
Third reading is resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an electric aggregation agreement with an electric supplier recommended by Energy Alliances, Inc., the community's energy aggregation consultant. The mayor can enter into subsequent agreements with regard to the program to reduce costs as needed.
Okay, a motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, I need a motion and a second to evoke the emergency clause, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett.
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight.
Aye.
Dr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone.
Aye.
Mr. York.
Aye.
All right, I think we're good.
So Ed, is that something you want me to do? Redo the legislation?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Thanks for
Yeah,
coming
sure.
in.
Guys.
Thanks for coming in, very
Thanks,
helpful.
Dan.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Maria. Ed, is that something you want me to do, to redo the legislation?
This is why
Somebody's
I
gonna have to
got
redo the
confused,
legislation, you want me to do that?
Consider a subsidy agreement.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
Okay. Okay.
All right, and moving on down through communications, we have, Chief Hines, we have your monthly report. Anything you'd like to add?
No, nothing at this time, sir.
You sure?
No, sure.
You know, Chief, you know how I'm a little sensitive about this traffic control issue that, you know, I feel is an ongoing issue. I noticed in the report here that total citations seem to be down. Speeding citations are down by 80%. How's this possible? 80% decline.
Okay.
When people run the red light at Madisonville Road and Worcester, does that count as speeding, or does that just count as running a red light?
That's a red light violation.
Well, that's, like I said, that's
Stupidity
total
violation.
speeding violations. And then, of course,
Well, I will tell you that, obviously, we have stepped up the radar enforcement on Miami Road. Officers are coming in saying, Chief, I sat there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and I got nothing. So I think the appearance of us being there more is helping keep those numbers down. And then I still say that speed sign that we bought and put on the pole down there has made a big difference.
well, I don't know, it's made something, but I see we're on Miami Road, the percentage of citations is down by 30%. And
That's
like I
correct.
said,
That's-
Chief,
that's what I'm
I'm
saying.
harping on this a little bit because, you know, obviously I'm getting calls from residents and other things. I personally live over there, I come and go through that intersection, and it seems to me that there's a lot of speeding down that hill. So I'm
And up it.
grateful that we have increased the patrols over there, and I would certainly like to recommend that we maintain that.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could comment on that, that is something I know a little bit about. People do come into mayor's court all the time. We're famous or infamous for speeding, take us down Miami Avenue, and we have been for years. You know, so a lot of times guys will come into mayor's court and say, oh, man, you know, I got pulled over because my license plate was expired, but by God, I ain't gonna speed in the village of Mariemont because I know that you guys are really hawks about that stuff. So I think the reputation has kind of gotten out there that we don't tolerate speeders. And I looked into it myself on that, went through all the studies on that Miami. Now, you live there, so you see it more than I certainly do. But it sure does seem like the speeding is going down,
Yeah.
you know? And if somebody's going real fast, they'll get a ticket, that's for sure.
Well,
Well,
I
the
mean, I'm
thing
not
is,
so sure of that. I mean, it gives a percentage-wise in the numbers, I'm not so sure they are getting.
well,
the
Mayor,
tickets. That's why I'm
the
pointing this
thing
out.
is that going down, the way I look at it, is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
You're saying it's down 80%, I think that's a good thing.
I mean, I cross that intersection multiple times a day. So I have, my husband and I were just remarking on the fact that we think people are slowing down. So, and I don't know if it's because of the, I actually affiliate, maybe this is unfair, but I thought maybe with the Murray Path, that there's a lot more people crossing, to be honest. I mean, I apologize, I should have given credit to the police. We were just remarking on that the other day, that we thought that folks were going much
I
slower.
appreciate that. I mean, like I said, if the percentage of citations were up, then we wouldn't be doing our job, I don't think, because because obviously the speeding would be continuing to get worse. But with the percentage of citations being down, and like I said, the officers are over there more than we have been because you've asked me to do that. And
No, and I've seen
they're
them
coming
over there.
back in and saying, hey, I don't know what else we can do, Mayor, than to be there more. And like I said, I think the speed signs made a big difference. So, I look at it as that percentage of citations going down in that area is a good thing, and what we're doing is working.
Well, that's a perspective, I'll give you that. I'm just saying, I'm a little sensitive to this. Residents over there are a little sensitive to
they?
this. I'm not sure everybody shares that opinion.
That's fair
Well, I understand, but you living there, I know you'll see it more, but I say all the time, if you're sitting on your porch or you're standing in your front yard and a car goes by, it doesn't matter whether you're on Miami or what street you're on, a car goes by at, let's say, 30 miles an hour, it appears it's going a lot faster than 30, and you're standing there watching it go by.
It can.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when I'm pulling out of Lytle Woods, the first thing I do when I pull out of Lytle Woods is I look down at the speed sign to see, because I know somebody's coming down the hill, and 9 times out of 10, it's flashing red.
Okay, then if the officers aren't there, then obviously there's much we can do about it, but, and I can't put them there,
No, I know
sir,
they can't
I'm
live
not,
there.
I'm
They're
not gonna
gonna be
ask them to sit there for an hour and a half out of their shift. That's not a good use of manpower, but, they are, as you can see, living there, they are there more often than they were in the past, and I've had more people than, I've had more people tell me that they've seen our officers there more, so, I think us being there more obviously is working. Now, are there people still speeding down the hill? There always will be
Yeah,
until
no,
you
I
can
think
flatten the hill
everything,
out.
I'm aware of that, right, all right. Chief, it looks like there's somebody else though.
Ooh, may I? May I?
Please,
Are we still talking about police things?
yes.
Just a safety issue. The crosswalk from the hotel south on Worcester over to the dentist's office, the button to turn the crosswalk is not working.
The crosswalk to, oh, okay.
That's right out in front of the hotel.
Okay.
That button doesn't work to get to walk.
Okay. I'll have Vicky call Capital Line tomorrow and check that out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I just wanted to comment, Chief, it looks like Mr. Sugarman sent you a really nice letter of appreciation.
Did.
Yeah, that was very nice of him to do so. Yeah. All right, moving on. We have Ben James' monthly maintenance department report. Any questions regarding that? And I hope that you all will sort of turn to the back and notice that I myself am now a certified, trained service person, certified pesticide handler.
Oh, jeez.
Mr. Ayer gave it to Eric Hudson and Ben himself, so you may see me out there spraying the weeds.
Congratulations, Bill.
Yes, quite the achievement.
Breathe in
That's a
deep.
resume right there. You got-
Yeah.
That is, Right.
I've got work after I leave here.
yeah. Go kill bees.
Ending job.
Okay. All right, we have Mr. Copeland's spending request. The service contract for the Stryker products, the cardiac monitors. Have I got that correct, Chief?
Yes, sir. We spoke about that this morning.
Yes.
Dan and I did. It's a renewal. It's quite a bit of money, but it's for a 2.5-year renewal, which,
Right.
if we hadn't have had it in the past, it would have cost us a whole lot more than that 12 grand to repair the
Yeah.
equipment and do the maintenance and stuff on it. So it's basically pretty much a no-brainer.
Okay, so a motion and a second then to approve the spending request.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right.
Can I, this is a source of curiosity really quickly. So if it's a 2.5-year contract, is this allocated over 2.5 years? How does the budgeting work for it?
It's a cash basis.
It's a cash,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep,
Thank
so-
you. There we go. So we'll have spikes of cost depending on the year, but then
Yeah, the
next
cash
year-
will take a bigger, it'll reflect on the cash for June, because we'll run it next month.
Yeah, okay,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, and then next we have the letter, or the statement, I guess, from Hamilton County Resource. Once again, this goes out to just about every resident that's listening to me or anybody else for that matter. We really do seem to be doing a pretty good job with our curbside, recycling. This particular round, we received a check back from these people for a little over $9,000 for our recycling, effort, and apparently we diverted something like almost 1,600 tons of material from the landfill. I mean, I think that's worth noting and calling out. I think we're all doing a good job.
It's huge.
It's a little less than the last 2 years, so maybe we just go a little better, people.
Well, I think one of the things is we don't really have recycling in the parks anymore.
Oh.
And those were very inefficient because they just looked like trash bins and people used them.
Uh-huh.
And I remember at one point, we had somebody from Hamilton County come in, and they can offer bins that just have a place for cans.
Like the
know-
one out in front of Graders.
Yeah, that
Canton.
are more obvious.
Yeah.
Because I would notice in the concourse that there was always trash in the recycling bin.
Right. So we can do that?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
There's one at the tennis courts that's different, it's blue. It's a whole-
And it's,
Yeah, it's
right,
blue.
well, right, just like the one in front of
And it
Graders.
has spots, or does it just have a big opening, like you can throw?
Well, it
anything?
doesn't have as big an opening, it's got a smaller, rounder one.
Yeah.
But it does have labeling on it that's very clear that it says recycling, so over there it doesn't.
Do you know if it's
You don't
a
get-
Rumpke? I'll have to look at one and see who supplied it, because I'll ask Rumpke in a heartbeat if they can put those
Well,
in
I
the
just remember
park.
there was a lady from Hamilton County who came in and, like, said that they would supply them to communities,
Okay,
but it wasn't Rumpke. But I don't remember
okay,
when it
well,
was.
I'm gonna reach out to Hamilton County and find out.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks, Marcy.
that's okay. I just drive me crazy when people throw trash in the sand.
Yeah.
I've been known to pick it out and put it where it's supposed to go.
All right, we've already done the aggregation, so permission to address council. You're up.
You're up.
Please state your name and your address, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Solicitor and council members. My name is Ed O'Connell. I'm here with my wife Barbie O'Connell. We reside at 6708 Miami Bluff. I was at the memorial yesterday, which of course our mayor conducted, and I was listening to Kim Beach, who I think was elected or voted, I should say, the Lady of the Year, the Resident of the Year, and certainly a deserving resident. But
Very fitting.
yes, it was interesting to listen to Kim talk about, living in Mariemont. She's, I know, a second or third generation, I guess. It's been here for quite some time. And I think we all agree that we enjoy our community. We enjoy certainly the beauty of the community, the residents of the community, but most importantly, the people of the community. And of course, we're most appreciative for the services that we get here from Chief Hines and of course, the police department, the fire department, and of course, our maintenance and so forth. Barbie and I, with our children long gone now, have been residents here now for 23 years, or 22 years, 23 years at our present address. And we've had wonderful neighbors that have lived next to us, and particularly the neighbors that live to our left as you look at the house, who have moved on. In the last 2 years, though, we've unfortunately have watched the next door residents, in our opinion, deteriorate from the standpoint of its maintenance and so forth, and the standpoint of its upkeep. And I think it's gotten to the point where I felt I had to address the council about this. I have talked to our mayor about this before. I know I've talked to Chief Hines about it, and perhaps even Ed on this occasion. And I've taken the liberty of taking some photographs and having them blown up to sort of give you a better appreciation of what we're looking at. Now, please understand, I'm not the kind of guy that, expects everybody to have a perfect yard, picket white fence and everything like that. And I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I think I like to get along with my neighbors, and I generally do get along with my neighbors, although I have to say, in this particular case, the owner and the lady that lives in this house, I have probably seen no more than 2 or 3 times. I've talked to her maybe once or twice. I've knocked on her door twice, but have never gotten an answer. But it's gotten to the point where we feel that, it has become such an eyesore to look across and see what we see that's no more than 25 yards from our residence. And I'm talking about, the condition that the house and the yard has been kept in, or hasn't been kept in. Everything from the lawn not being serviced to the point where now at least much of the lawn in the backyard is nothing more than a dust bowl. The garbage cans are not maintained in an area where I understand where people should be keeping their garbage can. These are open garbage cans, many times with the garbage and so forth spilling out and some of it coming over to our yard. And just things that, whether it be bikes, whether it be mattresses, whether it be rakes or anything, whether it be the accumulation of leaves and so forth on the roof, there's been no maintenance. There's been no upkeep of it. It's just the same. It's been like that ever since the person has moved in. But you can, if I may,
Please,
show these
please.
around and kind of give you, these were taken in the last 2 weeks, but I can represent to you that this condition, and the fence that is there is the owner's fence. Not our fence, but the owner's fence. These are conditions that have been well, for months.
Ongoing.
Months, ongoing, almost since the beginning.
This is just in their yard, this mattress?
Yeah, that's at the side yard, yeah. And it's been like that for, well, I could say 6 months. It's been like that
Wow.
for a year, maybe longer. Almost.
I thought my yard was bad. I thought my yard was bad. Gosh.
So what's the standard procedure in these situations?
Well, look at the pictures.
What is the standard procedure in these situations?
Ron Holloway and myself, obviously, we've had numerous conversations about, we're fully aware of this particular issue. And we are, obviously, you gotta look at the, what does the code book say, what ordinance or violation would she be in violation, or order she be in violation of, kind of thing. Rod has tried to speak with this individual on a couple of occasions, and that has not been too successful. So we were strategizing about this the last couple of days about trying to,
These are stupid.
somehow making a person-to-person, I think we're past letters and phone calls. We have to move on to a person-to-person contact. And that's, like I said, we've been sort of strategizing as to how we're going to do that. Pretty much, it's going to involve going to the house and, knocking on the door. Possibly the chief is going to have to go with us,
Yeah, and I
I've
certainly.
been there
Yeah, the
several
chief,
times
I know the
and,
chief has seen it. I don't know
yeah.
that
Right.
if he's
And-
actually spoken to the lady, but I know that I attempted to, and as I said, was unsuccessful. But yeah, I mean, I certainly have no problem being involved in that aspect of it and so forth. But these conditions you see, I think probably the mattress and so forth, you'll notice the 2 sheds that are there on the side of the house, if you saw that, those were always well-maintained and so forth, and storage was kept in there. Now that this has been, it looks like that and has looked like that for the last year and a half.
Do you know?
I think the other bad thing that I noticed is that in the backyard, again, which by previous owners was always maintained, always had grass, you
Yeah.
see a large trampoline with 4 or 5 kayaks underneath it.
underneath,
And
yes.
that condition has been like that almost since the inception.
Right.
So it's, you know, it's gotten to the point where I am very much concerned about, well, the value of people's property, you know, just deteriorating to the point. I might add one other thing too, and you don't see these in the pictures, but there was a gutter,
Yeah.
the main gutter on the top, on the roof, the whole
Yeah.
span of it fell down.
Yeah, I saw
In the
that.
front, it was in the front yard for probably a week or two, then it was finally moved over to the side. I think now that they may have removed it, because I went by going over here tonight, and I did not notice.
I mean,
but
it wasn't put back up
I don't know. I don't remember seeing any scaffolding or anybody going up there.
to do it.
I think they just tore it down.
So I think it was on the side of the yard for weeks, and now I don't know if somebody's come by and picked it up or not.
Right. Well, as I said, I mean, Rod and I have been going back and forth about this. I think we're at the point of a person-to-person contact where essentially, you know, we're going to prevail upon her to remedy these violations. And of course, you know, that would be the sort of the carrot. But I mean, ultimately, at some point, there's going to have to be a stick here. I mean, she will be cited in here to mayor's court if she won't remedy this. So.
Well, I
Yes.
appreciate that.
I would say,
It
I
would-
don't want to talk.
No, no,
He's
please,
better
talk
talk.
about, no.
I would just say that my main concern is the open garbage cans.
Yes.
That are overflowing.
Yes.
Today, they didn't put them out. So that means next week, it's gonna be hell over there. There's garbage everywhere, which take apart anything aesthetic for all the terrible things.
Right.
This is just a health issue.
Oh, it's a health
Yeah.
issue, and it
Well,
would
and you probably
attract
got
animals
raccoons
and
digging
things.
around in there.
Raccoons.
Horrible.
Yeah.
There's so much garbage in our yard all the time. Anyway,
No,
he's a better talker, but I just wanted to point out that
right,
from a health point of view.
sure.
Mayor, the open garbage cans, we can definitely deal with from my office, because the ordinance is clear on the garbage cans that the lids have to be on them. So that part we can deal with. The other issues obviously are building code issues as far as the stuff on the house falling off and all that, so.
Jed, I know you and I have talked about this, I know at Kiwanis and so on and so forth. Let me finish my conversation with Rod and sort of strategizing, you know, the best next step here. I promise you there's going to be a next step, and I will communicate that with you as soon as we've sort of formulated it.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, and I certainly appreciate your time. I do have one other point I want to ask
Sure.
you about, though. And this is the large tree that came down across from.
Oh, across the street, yeah.
Across the street.
Yeah,
The tree's probably at least 40 feet, if not 50 feet in length. That's only half of it there. One end of it is probably no more than 3 feet from the edge of Miami Bluff. And you know, Miami Bluff is not a large or wide street and so forth. So I think it does present a potential hazard, maybe for somebody that's driving by at night. It's not a well-lit street either.
Right.
That they could run into it. And I don't know, I think it's the kind of thing that might turn out to be the home for who knows what critters and so forth eventually, but.
Well, this is an easy fix,
It's a
you
little,
know.
yeah, and then, you know, and finally I might say, you know, we have signs up there like, don't park on that
Yeah,
side
don't
of
park on
Miami
the-
Bluff.
Exactly.
This thing weighs
Yeah.
probably 3 times more than any car that,
Yeah.
but, so I would just ask if the council could look at that and maybe see if we can,
yeah, this one's easy.
all right, thank you, that's it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Just a comment. I realize that the nice thing would be to go have contact, but it's been going on so long, and there's been more than one contact in the past, is my understanding, that we accelerate going to the citation. Otherwise, it'll just get delayed and delayed and delayed.
Well, I don't want to sit here and necessarily tip the
I understand.
conversation that Rod and I have been having, but yes, I do agree. We're at our wits' end, or we're at the end of basically a polite conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Right, yeah. That garbage is gonna be an issue when it starts getting hot. That garbage is definitely gonna be an issue.
Yeah.
Do I put these photographs in the record, or do I just?
I'll
want
t-
us-
let me
yeah.
have them for the time being. Yeah, because
I think we just found our artwork for the office, Bill.
Would it be helpful to have digital copies of those photographs, Tony, or no?
Rod may want them.
Well, I do have the photograph. I could send them to Rod, I guess.
You could email them to Rod, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I could do that.
I want to
too.
keep right
Just
now
so there's
for
a
conversation.
electronic
Yeah,
electronic
yeah.
copy.
I've had multiple conversations, well, Rod knows
Yeah,
about this too.
I know.
so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Well, on that unsavory note, any question regarding the bills? No?
Nope.
No?
the list of all the stuff I.
Randy? Nope. All right, then, motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right, let's pay some bills. Okay, I think we're going to add the liability insurance renewal work. Rob,
Yep.
I'm putting that officially in your committee.
Can you also add in there, that by the end of the year, we'll have to do something about the fee for waste and recycling?
How much, see, we did it with a plan that we'd have, be under contract at the end of the year. And so from that perspective, I thought we were successful.
No, again, I'm just talking about, because right now we have, we can renew for 4% increase, right?
That was my plan.
Yeah. So I want to put into the finance committee, once Public Works makes the recommendation, I want to follow soon after that to say, okay, so in January 1st, we're going to increase, we're going to make the fees go up commensurate with the cost increase. for
What
the-
date do you need that done by?
Well,
You mean the recommendation?
again, no, so
It
the
has to come out of the
so
committee.
the-
A committee report is all it will take, I think, Bill.
Well,
No, because the resolution has to be passed also. For,
And then but you're talking about the fees
It's
to the residents.
yeah, so.
Okay,
it's
just
a
for
resolution.
So
clarification.
when do you
We don't have
need
it.
that resolution passed?
I know, I'm asking Joni a question. So it's a resolution, right? It's not, we don't have an ordinance for the waste and recycling fees, do we?
It's not permanent.
Yeah,
I
It
think
might
we've-
be an ordinance.
it might be.
I can look.
Yeah.
The
So when
legislation.
does that need to be passed?
It's gonna need to be passed, I mean, if we want to pass it normally, it has to have 3 readings and
Yeah, I
then,
know.
and then 30
And
days
30
after that.
days.
So if I back it up,
Too
it's like October is when you'd have to have the,
October 1st, October 31st?
well, no, the first meeting in October, and we'd have to have concurrent with that, the ordinance, because then it has readings in 1, 2, 3, and then it has to go through.
So 2 in
So-
October, 1 in
So a
November.
committee report needs to be submitted the very first council meeting in October. So that's, and again, we couldn't do that until,
What, okay, I'll back up. When does the resolution have to be passed by? So the finance committee can do its thing
so the resolution for Public Works, you mean, right?
For
for
the trash
trash.
contract. Like, still the same, first meeting in October, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, you'd have to have that, council would have to agree to extending.
Sure,
the
but I
contract
mean,
for-
the
I
reading-
understand, that's
the
why
reading-
I
you're-
can back up,
Yep.
knowing when the resolution has to be passed, I can back up to the committee report. I'm just,
Second
Okay.
meeting in September then.
Right.
Second meeting in September so that I can have a resolution, I can have a recommendation, a
That'll
committee
be
report for the first meeting in
September
October.
22nd.
So then, I'm putting
Ah,
additionally in your committee to review that,
Well, I think first put it in Public Works, right, to say, we're gonna review,
I'll take care of that. Now I know what the timeline is.
yeah.
Because up to this point, I always viewed my timeline was the end of the year, so we could get Rumpke under contract.
Right.
okay, so Bob, you're good with some.
So he's, in Public Works is gonna be the recommendation about the contract, and then
Right, I
after that
understand.
will be, separately, there's a
I
discussion
under-
from the
Right.
Finance Committee about then the fees that the residents pay.
Right, through Waterworks.
So that,
Then that comes to the Finance Committee.
consider that then in your committee now.
Yeah, and then the other one's in Bob's committee, the Public Works.
Okay.
All kinds of
All right, all right, and Randy, I didn't mean to jump ahead of you on the order of things here. We have your committee report coming up. I know we were having a discussion about this.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us here, Ed, how?
In a perfect world, we should probably send this back to committee for a new recommendation, because the committee report as submitted doesn't qualify to meet our Rule 22 in council. However, the first 3 points in that committee report do. And so what I would suggest, Randy, is you make a motion to bifurcate this committee report, where in the first 3 points in that committee report are a true committee report with the majority of the members signing, okay? The 4th point on that report submitted as a minority report, and as you explained in the report itself, one of the members was unable to attend and one had to abstain, which is fine, but we should do it 2 separate votes is all I'm saying.
Oh, okay, so we can discuss the third topic. but-
The fourth.
Absolutely.
Fourth topic, right?
Fourth,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
fourth
because
topic.
it's really, and
And
this
that-
is
no,
something
that's-
the mayor and I have talked about, and Matt Aaron and I have talked about. Committee reports are just that. They're a recommendation to council.
Correct.
You know, you can have 2 guys on a committee recommend that we do something, then the other 4 people here, when it gets to council, say, no way. That's okay to do it that way. But this way, I think, just to be clean
Oh,
about
that's
it, let's
fair.
do it this
I
way.
think it's great.
Okay.
Okay.
So Randy will read his report, but not read paragraph 4.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
Do we do this now?
Yes, please.
I like to make things a lot more complicated than they need to be, Randy.
Well, we knew this was a slippery slope, so.
Yeah, Right. yeah.
I appreciate your guidance then. The Health and Recreation Committee met on Wednesday, May 21st in council chambers. Present at the meeting were Randy York, Matthew Ayre, also in attendance for Mayor Brown, Jim Getz, and Doug Zemke. The purpose of the committee meeting was to, number 1, review the Mariemont Park Board request from their memo dated 5/20 of '25, and 2, review the quotes for the Dogwood Park demolition. The committee reviewed the May 20th, 2025 Parks Advisory Board report attached and unanimously agreed to, 1, request that the mayor work with the maintenance department on park follow-up tasks as identified by the board on an ongoing basis. Number 2, request guidance from the mayor on resident inquiries concerning the status of Concourse Park. And 3, accept the park advisory board recommendation and propose to village council that a traditional teak bench be the standard for park bench additions with specifications and details attached. The committee reviewed the quotes received for demolition of Dogwood Park. The committee unanimously agreed to accept the bid of Cincinnati Property Cleanup for a total of $28,535 from the Dogwood Park Fund. The committee will consult with MRA on the timing of the demolition to minimize disruptions to the park. The meeting was adjourned at 4:30 PM.
Do you have your signed copy?
And for those 3 points, it was signed by 2 members of the committee, correct?
Yes, correct.
Well, Matt hasn't signed that part yet.
Well, we have the signature here.
Randy, is that 28.5, is that from donations or from grants or from both, or,
Both.
okay.
Yeah,
So
the
that-
fund
that-
is comprised of different sources, yeah, grants and donations.
Okay,
There are some sources that we cannot use for this. We cannot use the funds from the Land and Water Conservation Fund. We can use a lot of private donations we got, and that's principally what we'll use for this.
okay, I just wanted to understand.
Sure.
And this is essentially just, to do the cleanups, to start the cleanup work, in Dogwood Park. Which includes, a lot of the fencing, around the bell tower, the shrubs, and, it's that kind of work that'll be done.
But it's not any of the grading or any of that?
No, it's not
Okay.
any of the grading of the field or the irrigation or any, that's not part of this.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any
The
other
big-
question?
Yeah, the big thing is taking the baseball
Yeah.
backstops. and
Is that,
out.
is that park currently irrigated? Does it have irrigation in it?
It's got a sprinkling system.
Okay.
There's some question of how well it works.
Do you know if it
And-
has a rain guard? Like, I know a few years ago, we put in a rain guard in the concourse so that when it's sitting there with 2 inches of water, the sprinklers don't come on?
No, come on. I doubt.
It was always so
I
funny
doubt
watching the
that.
sprinklers go on when it was
It's a-
pouring.
it's an
I
old
think,
system.
Ben manually does it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's on any timer or program. I think
It's
he
a
made-
very old system, and, there's sprinkler heads and things that constantly getting broken and have to be replaced, so on and so forth. it's an issue that, I mean, Rod and I are having a bit of a disagreement on this. I mean, personally, I think Randy's agreement with me. I think if we're gonna get into doing something with the field, that entire irrigation system needs to be looked at, possibly replaced. Yeah.
I would agree.
Question?
Nope.
Okay.
Doesn't make much sense.
I,
All right, you've heard.
I have,
Oh, sorry.
I have a comment, I guess. I like the idea about the teak benches, but I think, but does this imply anything about the replacement schedule?
There will be a separate committee report that we will review that will go into that, because right now, we have nothing that says what happens to these park benches. Do we have the discretion to move them? Do we have the discretion to get rid of them when they're damaged? So we've done all that, and at some point, we'll bring that in. We did have a resident that wanted to donate a park bench, which kind of pushed this a little bit forward, more so than we had anticipated. So I think this resident, I think it's for a former resident.
For a former resident.
They wanted it to go in the main square here, Village Square, and there's enough benches there. So what the park board is recommending that is we put the new one there, but we move one of those to Ann Button-Becker Park, because there's no benches in Ann Button-Becker Park, and there's a larger playground with mulch where it would fit beautifully.
I think ultimately what will happen is, because we do have, any number of, I don't know what the total number, maybe you know, Jim, what the total number of benches are. Okay, 88, and probably 25 of those, are probably ready to be,
We've done,
scrapped.
yeah, we've done that assessment, yeah.
Yeah,
We've
but
done
what
that
I'm
before.
saying is that out of, say, the 25 that we may have to scrap or do something with, some of these benches can be disassembled, and parts of them can be used to reformulate, you take some of the bad parts, or some of the good parts out of the bad, and you can make a fairly decent bench out of it. Now, I don't know, we haven't really talked about that yet, who would be doing that kind of a thing, but I do think that's something that we, could discuss.
I just want to make sure we weren't committing a financial responsibility on the village at this point in time.
Well, we're asking for $2,500 per park bench, and they cost us a little less than $2,000.
Right.
So that leaves us $5,000 to $500. I'm sorry, $500 to if we want to put a concrete post on
Pad.
it, or pad on it, or that includes the engraving, and that leaves us a little extra to maintain the benches. So we just thought 2,500 was probably.
But you're not bringing that forward now. This is just.
But we're not doing that now.
All we're doing is saying,
Right
this,
now.
this is the standard that we want to go forward with.
That's all we're
That's
saying
all we're
right
doing.
now.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, and I want to take this opportunity, too, to say that certain residents, Frank Marzullo being one of them, and other members of the, newly reconstituted park board, have been doing a wonderful job at basically power washing some of these things off. And it's almost amazing, how, with the moss and everything that's growing on it, it makes them look nearly new. It turns them into a bench that you would actually consider sitting down on. Yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, something's working, yeah. So I want to give a call out, to Frank and to others who've been doing that. And I don't know what's going on with Frank exactly, but he seems to love the power washer.
Oh, my gosh.
And he's doing a really good job. Yeah.
Can we just triple check, this is, we drafted that legislation around park benches. I just want to make sure we didn't have automatic annual increases on pricing in the resolution. We should just,
No, we've not done that yet.
No.
We've talked about it, but it's not anything that we've acted on.
Yeah, we haven't gotten anything here.
so I feel like that was part of the, maybe I'm wrong, because rules and laws and health and rec are now
Oh.
merging in my memory.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know which committee was dealing with. So the rules and law deals with the naming rights
Yes.
of
Yeah,
the bench.
Yeah.
Right.
And then health and rec, we did not do pricing for the benches.
We've not acted on it. We've kind of put a template together a standard of how we want to approach it, but, you know, we haven't connected with rules and law, so to speak, and said,
Okay.
here's how
So-
we're going to marry these two together.
Did we just make up the $2,500 price then?
When we had researched, when we were preparing for this, how much they were and how much we thought it was to install them and do the pad, we thought that $2,500 was a good number.
Because I thought, I recall us discussing it, and I feel like we documented something, whether that was the price plus 25%, or I just feel like that needs to be referenced before we come to a final. It's probably 2,500. I'm just saying, my memory, in my memory, we established a pricing structure, and maybe we haven't codified it, and we need to codify it. But I do believe, and it could have been that it's the cost of the bench plus 25%.
I don't remember.
So, and it could have been a committee report.
That's reasonable. I
It could have
remember
been a
we
committee
talked
report.
about it.
It was, but yeah, it might be worth, I don't know how we track that down, but.
Okay. Well, it's,
But that is important. The reason I'm saying that's important is because it really is, it costs to maintain those benches costs us money. And so we can't just do benches at cost. There's got to be some sort of additional cost because it does take maintenance.
to maintain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that would be, my recommendation is, I know we discussed it ad nauseum at one point. I feel like it maybe came through in a committee report at minimum, but that we did establish a standard by which,
Yeah, we would do the
For
maintenance, yeah, pay for it. Yeah, okay.
so,
All right.
I just want to,
All right, so motion and a second to accept the report?
So moved.
Second.
Slow coming. Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
All right, Mr. York?
Aye.
All right.
So now do we talk about the fourth
Right.
part? The part that we didn't read?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
About Ann Button Becker Park.
Yeah, this is to accept the Park Advisory Board recommendation and to accept the Quirk Studio proposal to develop park plans for Ann Button Becker Park and Concourse Park. Please note that council member Matt Ayer recused himself from discussion or input on this matter. Lacking a quorum at the committee meeting, the committee chairs request that this bid be presented to full council for review and deliberation. If approved, the H&R Committee Chair requests that a purchase order request be prepared for $3,100 for initial payment to Quirk. The remaining $3,100, total contract $6,200, will be payable upon completion of the project.
So,
So how many people did you get multiple bids, or?
They asked for 4 or 5. 4, and 2 came back. And 2 chose not to bid.
Okay.
and the other bid was more expensive.
yeah, I mean, this is the low bid, correct? Yeah.
This is the lowest and best bid. Have you considered it all?
Yeah.
You felt that this bid was the lowest and best? right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then also, this is just to develop plans basically for Ann Button Becker Park and the concourse, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. And as you heard me say about the recommendation, there will be a rendering at some point, correct? So that we can,
That's the whole idea.
So,
yeah,
so
okay, yeah.
do we need a motion to approve this bid?
Yes, I think we do.
It's a motion to
Well,
approve.
wait,
Oh.
Yeah, well, once again, does this money come from the Bunkin account?
So this, like, there is
For the
30
part of it, yeah, I'm sorry, Brandy.
there is $3,400 in Ann Button Becker. We'll use that first, because we can't use it for anything else. And then at the beginning of the year, we had approved 11,500.
11,500, yep.
From permanent improvements for park plan development.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So the balance will be paid out of that, yeah.
I understand.
Okay. All right, we all clear? All right, a motion then and a second to accept this.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Aye.
All right. Okay.
Are these coming off, Randy?
Let me look and see how they're.
How they're worded?
Worded.
Just miscellaneous.
You gotta leave, Dogwood Park needs to stay on there still. You got other pieces still to come.
Okay.
All right, and miscellaneous.
You could,
Village offices will be closed in observation of Juneteenth Day on June the 19th, of course, 2025. The budget hearing for 2026 will be
Oh my
held
God, already?
Monday, June the 23rd. That's coming up.
Yep.
At 5:30, with the regular council meeting to begin immediately upon conclusion. The fireworks display will be held at dusk on Friday, July the 4th, 2025. And village offices will be closed, of course, Friday, July the 4th, in observation of Independence Day. And I want to go ahead and add, MPF, Biff Black ran into me during the tail end of Memorial Day. MPF is graciously and very generously going to be contributing a $4,000 contribution to
sweet.
the fireworks.
Wow.
And I'm going to set for maybe the upcoming meeting, I'll work this out with Biff. We're going to do the check presentation and recognize their contribution to us. But
That's a big deal.
extremely generous and very nice, yeah, because you heard me talk about this every year, the price of the fireworks goes up. We want to maintain, a certain level of show, and this really helps us do it.
Yeah.
And you're gonna prevent rain this year, right?
Yeah,
Oh my, what could be worse than last year? That was nuts.
That was nuts.
That was nuts.
Oh, I know.
You got it in like.
But we got it in.
That was a lot of fireworks in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
Well, yeah. Wow.
All right, in resolutions, that we have the two resolutions here, the supplemental appropriations. Somebody going to read that?
This is third reading, supplemental appropriations.
Okay, motion and a second to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bartlett?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown Knight?
Aye.
Dr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Van Stone?
Aye.
Mr. York?
aye.
Okay, and
This
the
is
renewal of the, was that just a second reading? Go ahead.
The renewal of 3.0 mil tax levy in excess of 10 mil limitation for capital improvements for the tax years of 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030.
All right, that's the second reading. And Randy, did you get your, I know you had
It
questions
does,
about
it
that.
does renew at the effective rate,
Yeah.
which is about 0.65%.
0.65%.
Correct.
Yeah.
So a 3 mil levy would be about $481,000. So when we did this in 1981,
Yep.
we did it to get 481 in today's dollars.
Right.
So we're renewing it at $100,000, roughly, 102.
Okay.
So my question is, we've had a lot of talk about streets. We had a public meeting in here that talked about the fiscal cliff. Do we do a replacement levy or do we do a levy renewal?
It's a valid question.
Do we have
I
that
mean,
conversation now? Does it go in committee of the whole? I'm the last person in the world that wants to raise any taxes, but
It's gonna-
this is $1981 we're dealing with here. And I know we've got roads to do, and I know, there's always all these discussions, and my point is, if we're gonna pull a lever to increase our revenues, this might be the appropriate lever.
Well, I don't think we
It's
can
gonna
have
be
the
a big
discussion
jump.
here tonight because, kind of thing. But to your point, then, if we want to set a committee of the whole meeting or something to discuss it, put it out on notice, have an agenda for that. Yeah.
Sooner
So
than
maybe
later.
that's something we should do.
We'd have to move on.
Well, it's already, because again, you've already got in a committee of the whole assessing revenues for the village, so you've already got a topic in there.
So I think if we get together a committee of the whole, let's really drill into our projections and what we see. And we may or may not need to do this. My only point is, if we are going to do something like this, this may be the best opportunity.
Best time to do it.
But I don't think you're gonna make the timing for this. This has to be turned in by,
August.
August
August.
9th?
is that when it has to be
Yeah.
it has to be
August
submitted
9th.
August 9th?
Do you know the date? The exact date? August the 9th? So if we're going to be doing it, then we really need to have that meeting, the committee of the whole meeting. Yeah.
We're looking at you, Vice Mayor.
The vice mayor runs that.
I knew that.
Well, and August
Fair
11th
enough.
is our first meeting, okay?
Yeah, so we can't do it then, right?
So we can't do it then. So we would have to do it by the July 28th meeting.
Well, that's still, man, that's close.
It's close.
I know, well, I'm just telling you
What-
realistically, that's,
Well, I think
How much notice do we have to give?
For a committee of the whole meeting?
24 hours.
24 hours.
So,
But again, you're asking to modify this legislation too, right? That's what you're talking about, is
Yeah.
modifying
And I
this.
must,
Potentially.
I developed these numbers myself, so they may be off a little bit. So I
It's gonna-
anecdotally
Well,
looked
no,
at
but
it.
you're raising a good point, whether the numbers are exact or not. I mean, it raises a
Right,
good
it's-
point. We can
it's-
nail down the numbers.
Yeah, I can do that, but it's a big, it's gonna be a big jump because so much time has gone by.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be a real big jump.
Right.
But you know what, to be
We-
honest
we
with you,
also
better
have
renew the smaller permanent improvement. If we renew, you know, that's the one that's up for renewal. It's a smaller permanent improvement. So it'll jump a lot, but
And that's the one that's more limited about what you can spend it on. So,
Yeah.
Randy, I don't know that this is the right one to do it on then.
Well, street repairs, installation repairs of curbs, sidewalks, storm sewers, tree maintenance, upgrading of parks, reducing erosion, purchase of equipment and facilities for police, fire, maintenance, and administrative departments.
That's
So again,
a
it's just the more limited of the two, that's all.
Right.
Just telling you that. There's restrictions on what you can do that one for,
Yeah.
like you've just read, but the other one does not.
Well, those are the restrictions? Well, that's, I mean, that's a kind of a big.
It's a long list, but-
List in a way, I mean.
But I think your emphasis on streets is well taken.
so is there a reason we can't do it in June, early June?
Sooner the better.
You're in charge.
Well, it's sooner the better.
Sooner the better.
It's just a question of sort of getting enough information together, we can have a good discussion around this.
Do we have it from,
See, a real good 5-year projection, 3 to 5 year projection.
Oh, I think our fiscal officer can easily come up with
We
that.
do that with the budget as a 3-year projection. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I think you rightfully so have to take a really conservative approach with that thing, right?
Oh, yeah, well, because that pension thing's come up again.
Yeah, no, but I'm just talking
gonna
about
pass.
revenue. I'm just talking about revenue side of things,
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
right? Because, I mean, again, if.
I'd rather
people
undershoot
receive
and have
salary
more.
increases- Yeah, so if people receive
I'd
salary.
rather,
increases-
yeah, have reappropriate than overappropriate to begin with.
I mean, revenue's been going up every year. We had a one-off last year, but still, strip that out, it's still going up every year. So, you know, so my point is, I wouldn't use hers because that's being conservative, and that's rightfully so, being conservative, so.
okay,
So the question is, can we get enough information pulled together to have a legitimately?
That- Kelly, when can that information be pulled together about what our options are?
As far as options for,
Are we doing it or not?
Are we doing it? What if we go for an increase in that tax?
well, if we go for an increase, it would just have to be a replacement, not a renewal. You can't change the rate on a renewal.
Oh, I understand that.
But, yeah.
But if we're doing a replacement, I'm just saying, when can we get data together so the meeting is meaningful, that's all.
Well, that's a good question, but I have another question. If we don't go for this renewal because we're going for a new levy and that levy doesn't pass, then where are we?
We're done.
Yeah, either we renew this or we
That's-
replace
That's
it.
the risk.
Yeah, so
Do we believe that this village has an appetite for this or not? I don't know. I
Right.
don't know the answer to that.
Well, so to Bill's point, maybe the better way to handle this is you do this as a renewal, and if you want to ask for extra money, you do that separately.
Absolutely.
It's a.
You don't
Don't
stick,
give up your renewal.
right, you don't stick the two together and sink or swim based on that. You go ahead and continue this as a renewal, and you offer a second one as a new one.
That's right.
Incremental.
Yeah,
makes a
that's a
lot of
good
sense.
point.
We could
I think
lose
it's
it,
a good
Randy.
point.
If we put it on and we lose it, like you said.
We lost it.
You'd be mad.
Yeah, then you get zero.
Because I think I read renewals pass like 90% of the time.
Right.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So
Well, I
leave
think-
this as it is. Don't do more to, I mean, just leave this so it goes through as a renewal. If council decides that there needs to be incremental funds, do it as a separate one.
So we're not putting this in committee of the whole. We're not gonna,
Well, it's already in committee.
I know it's already in, but we're
Yeah,
not
that-
gonna rush to do
There
something.
might not be, it takes the rush off of it somewhat. Yeah.
When do you have to get this submitted to the county auditor for certification? Probably not till mid-July.
Yeah.
The renewal.
I think Rob's point is really well taken, just because for a whole lot of reasons, but people are much more inclined to vote in favor of a renewal as opposed to a replacement, even if you need the
Well,
money.
because it's gonna be a big jump, so people are gonna be like, what is
Yeah.
going on here?
Well,
But, yeah, I mean, there's two ways to look at it, but
So,
I just think a renewal and a new levy is more palatable. So
I do too.
Yeah.
Yep.
what do you guys think?
Okay, carry on.
Well, I'm curious, Bob, Marcy, what do you guys think?
I agree with Rob's point.
Well,
I mean, it's good discussion because, you know, you just have to go from A to B to C
Yeah.
to D.
So,
Okay, so that was the second reading we had.
Yeah.
We'll have the third reading on it next time, and we're leaving it alone. I think that's the
understood,
decision.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A new levy, is that something that we want to have a conversation around?
Well, I think that's what the,
Yeah, see.
that's
yeah,
the revenue
we
needs.
just-
First, you have the conversation of, gee, what's our 3 to 5 year projection for revenue and expenses? And, because, again, we've been running in a surplus for the last 5, 6 years.
Okay.
So, do we think that's gonna continue or not? And then, once we've had that conversation about what we think is a reasonable 3 to 5 year projection, then we can have a conversation around, do we need more money for something specifically like roads or whatever? Because we're behind on roads. I totally agree
Oh,
with that.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, so that should be, all right, so,
But
And I
the
think that-
urgency for that discussion is somewhat alleviated right now because we're sticking with basically.
Because the
doing
target
renewal.
would be, in all honesty, November a year from now.
Or you could do it in May. 'Cause
Well, you could-
Terrace
Yeah.
Terrace Park
Yeah, you
is
could do it in
did
May.
yeah.
I've run about 5 or 6 school levies in my career, and when you put things on other than November, people think, what are you trying to sneak by me? Because people are not used to voting in May. And I'm just saying, I think we want to be upfront and be as transparent as we can be.
All right.
Okay.
All right, last item, the ordinance.
This is the third reading to amend,
Was it the third or second? I have second.
I'm sorry, it's the second, it's going to be the third. Second reading to amend ordinance 0825 of the Mariemont Code of Ordinances to increase payment for employees.
Okay, that was the second reading. We'll have the third reading next council.
Can I ask 2 quick questions now? So, talking about revenue, since we voted the CRA committee, are they gonna get together soon to start
Well,
talking?
I had that conversation, yes. We're going to, as soon as, if you'll let me out of here, we're going to have that discussion.
Okay, I mean, just,
No,
again,
I know, yeah, no.
that's, I think,
Yeah,
right.
again, I thought there were really 2 really powerful things that came out of the study that was done by Envision. And I thought that was, number 1 would be that CRA committee and looking at the industrial zone. And the second thing was the job retention language. And did Emil get that to you?
Yeah, he did.
Okay,
When we
good.
had a preliminary meeting on it.
Yeah.
And I had some follow-up stuff I haven't really done yet.
Yeah, because I think those 2, again, if we're gonna talk about.
But we also
revenue-
had another development in the industrial park that kind of changed that discussion a little bit. So Bill and I have been working on that, and as soon as we're over, I'm going to try to get together, set a meeting with Susan and
Yeah.
Bob to get that done.
So again,
No.
the whole thing about revenue, that would be, those to me were at least were the 2 most powerful. There's a lot of good things in that report, but those are the 2 that would have the biggest impact from a revenue standpoint.
Well, we're going to set that meeting as soon as,
Can I make it? So I did, I got I told, you know this, that Lisa Hopkins had reached out. Apparently they're applying for a grant for the National Exemplar.
yes.
And they want us to write a letter, so I dictated it this afternoon. And if we're all comfortable, I would like us all to sign it if we're agreeable to it. So I did send a copy the mayor has a copy of it, and I did send a copy of it to Lisa at some point. If we can review that, and if we're all in agreement, I think it would carry a lot of weight if all 6 council members could sign that, how much the National Exemplar means to the village.
Is it a letter that you can, so who has a copy?
Well,
Does-
I got it right
He's
here.
got,
I mean, I
you know,
can,
I did
know.
send it again, I sent it to Lisa and Mike for them to review, so I should get that back tomorrow.
So when you get their feedback, do you want to just forward it to us?
When do you need to finalize it then?
It's due Friday.
Friday.
So it's coming up quick.
How do you want us to sign it?
I can put it on my back porch and you can drop by and sign it. Or if you have an electronic signature.
Love,
Do you think
Susan.
there'll be any, is there gonna be significant?
How you wanna
No,
sign
I
it?
don't.
Love,
I wish I
Susan.
do. I tried to put as little on that
Put
last
the-
page
if
as
you could
possible.
put a
Little
heart
heart
over,
over.
yeah. So instead of an O, I would.
Well, I mean, it's a shame, I got it right here. If we knew that there weren't gonna be any changes, we could just all sign it right now, but,
Could we sign it right now?
No, I think Marcy's got a good point. Let's hear what Lisa and the others have to say. Before we go, if they have changes, let's
yeah,
wait and hear what
yeah.
their changes
No,
are before.
I agree, yeah, right.
I'll drive to everybody's house and get them to sign it.
Yeah.
I'm leaving town for a conference, so tomorrow. So that is my concern.
Well, why don't we have you sign this one? And if that doesn't change, then
Well,
at least we're.
well, that
She
was
should sign
partially
it.
my thought. If it doesn't change, then we kind of have it signed and we're good to go.
I have an electronic signature I will send you.
Do you have a stamp?
Do I have a what?
A stamp?
Well,
I do have a stamp too, but it's not.
well, I think I should just have it, well, you know, we can have this discussion. Let's adjourn here.
Oh, sure,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. All right, we're adjourned.
Susan, when are you back?
Friday.